Hello and welcome to How to Make More Sales with me, Anna Payne, supporting you to make more sales in a way that feels good for you and your clients. If you're ready for more sales, more impact, more success, and more money on your terms, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome back to the show. Now, somebody asked me yesterday whether I feel like I'm having to work harder in my business this year. And my immediate honest answer was yes. But actually, on reflection, I'm not just working harder, I'm actually working differently. And yes, at certain points this year, business has felt hard for me. And I know for lots of my clients. And certainly for me also, it has felt very, very busy. But I'll caveat that by saying I'm actually loving it. And one of my friends and former clients articulated it beautifully yesterday, that some of the harder has come from actually the time and energy that it's taken to figure out what is not working anymore. The time and energy spent on making that realization, and then the time and energy spent on refinement, the pivots, the creation of new strategies. And as that stuff beds in and balances out, then it will no longer be harder. It will just be different, a new normal. So yes, absolutely. If for you business feels a bit slower or less predictable, if you have thought this is harder than it was last year, I don't think you're imagining it. The market has definitely changed. Buyers have changed. The online space has changed. AI has impacted so much. For example, the volume of generic AI content and offers has never been higher. So the bar required to cut through that is consequently higher. And also the perceived value of information alone has never been so low. The economy has changed, how people are thinking, how people are making decisions. People are more cautious, and rightly so, because there has been some pretty good reasons for them to be cautious. I'm not going to start banging on about the trust recession, because honestly, my take is that the people who caused that to come into existence are now the ones who are most often naming it. But the upshot of all of these factors are that for lots of us, including me, what worked beautifully and predictably a year or two ago just might not work in exactly the same way now. And to be honest, I believe that another part of that is simply the market is righting itself. COVID saw a huge boom in online and an explosion of micro online businesses came into existence. It is natural for the market to correct itself over time. When there's a boom, then things just start to tail off and flatten down back to where their natural position is. So that's okay. The change is good. And I think the change really is good because it's good for good businesses who really will stand the test of time. And by good businesses, I mean good businesses who really care and who deliver for their clients. So that's good for buyers too. It's good for the market in general. And I think for me, if I think about what has changed, what I'm doing differently, really it's about going back to basics, relationships, trust, value. And I love that. I feel like it really plays to my strengths, and it is such a nice way to do business. It is a good way to operate. So in this episode, I want to talk about what I've seen changing, about what that looks like in my business, and more about what I mean about working differently. And because this episode is about working hard, I want to talk about the difference between what I think is fairly toxic hustle culture and the honest truth that building a successful business does take hard work. And yes, sometimes a bit of hustle. Because for me, those two things are not the same. There's the toxic hustle culture and there's the realization that, yes, you are required to work hard. So I'm absolutely not here for high pressure, hustle hard, weekends are for wimps, wearing my exhaustion as a badge of honor ethos. But I'm also really not here for pretending that business success arrives because we felt aligned, because we showed up when we wanted to, because we posted when we felt aligned and hoped for the best. That's just not true. Business, sales, relationships, all of these things take work. Getting momentum going takes work. And the type of work, it's not only the effort that you put in, but it's also the type of work that you're doing that really matters too. So, right, let's start to break it all down and I can share what I've noticed and what I'm doing differently and why. And as always, you can take from it what is valuable and what you can take back to your own business. Okay, so let's start with the obvious. The market has changed. People are more discerning, and now, because of AI, it is easier than ever to create more content, more emails, more sales pages, more posts, but more of everything. But it also means that there is more generic noise and content in the world than ever before. More generic offers too. And prospective buyers can feel that. So in a noisier market, trust absolutely matters more. Relationships matter more. Being human matters more. And what used to work might not actually work in quite the same way now for you as it used to. And I want to be careful here because I don't believe everything that used to work is dead. There's been so many kind of clickbait, all or nothing headlines. I'm not here for that. I don't believe live launching is dead. I definitely don't believe online business is dead or anything like that. But I know that in my business and in the many businesses that I see behind the scenes of with my clients, some strategies are just not working in the same way, at the same speed, or with the same ease and predictability that they might have done before. A one-to-many launch model can still work. A sales page can still work. An email campaign can still work. All of these things can still work. But for many business owners, those things on their own are no longer enough. People often need an extra bit of help to make that buying decision. They want more trust, more connection, more context before they buy. And this is especially true if you sell higher value services, coaching, consulting, training, or group programs, anything that requires somebody to trust you with their money, their time, their goals, their beliefs. And actually, that's why one of the strategies that I've talked about in this series in a previous episode is creating that easy yes, that bridge offer that helps people have an easy introduction to working with you. So it's much easier for them to make the commitment to come into your big or your main program. So my own sales have changed too. And I just want to share this from my own experience and be honest about this. In previous years, a lot of my sales came through a very strong selling one-to-many live launch model. So over 65% of total sales in a year would come from that live launch model. I would run a masterclass or a challenge. I would open the doors to a program, invite people in. I would send an email campaign and I would back that up with some personal outreach. And that worked really, really well. It still can work. I've done 2 challenge launches this year, one in February and one at the end of March. Both converted at around 16%. But this year, I've seen a shift. So a lot more of my sales are coming through the deeper relationship layers. So conversations, personal outreach, referrals, existing clients who are buying more things, repeat buyers, upsells, basically people who already know me and trust me and have worked with me or have been referred to me from people who've already worked with me. And I love that. Like I said earlier, it's such a good way to do business. And as I have often said on this show, success leaves clues. So if, like me, your sales are showing you that the warmest, most human, most relationship-led parts of your business are what is working for you this year, pay attention. Don't think, oh, my last launch wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I have to launch again and I have to try and make it better. Maybe instead of trying to do that, maybe look at actually what is working and getting more intentional about that. Stop treating the fact that your client has re-signed or they've referred 3 people or they've bought the next thing. That's not just a lucky accident. That's not just like that's actually your business working in the way it should. And I think the way to think about this is where my multi-layered sales framework comes in. So this is a methodology that I documented and trademarked last year to explain the different layers of sales. So layer 1 is the human layer. That is all about conversation. It's creating connections, having conversations and making offers, whether that's networking, sales calls, leveraging other people's audiences, but it's basically speaking to lots of people one-to-one and offering what you do. It kind of is the hustle that you need when you are starting out and trying to get your first clients that gets you your first clients and keeps you growing. It keeps converting strangers into people who know you and know what you do and getting into conversations with these people and then when appropriate, you can make your offer and convert these conversations into sales. Then beyond the human layer, layer 1, layer 2 is leverage. That is about where you are really working these relationships that you've created. You deliver great value, you keep clients in your world, your clients love you, and you keep them there by offering appropriate next steps, upsells, follow-on products. And also you get more leverage by getting referrals from these people. So step 1, the human layer, brings people into your world through conversation and connection. And layer 2, the leverage layer, keeps them there and really creates maximum impact and value for both of you, you and your client. And it has to be that win-win. Layer 2 will only work if your product or service is excellent. If people are coming into your world and then they're disappointed, layer 2 doesn't work. So if that's happening, you need to fix that delivery part in order to get layer 2 really working. Then beyond that, Layer 3 is what I call the scale layer. And this is where you begin to automate. And perhaps instead of selling one-to-one, you sell one-to-many. Now, I was doing pretty well with the leverage layer, but I've also felt that that has become harder and it's become less predictable and it's become less enjoyable for me. It feels hard to stand out. It feels harder to connect with people. So I have really had to drop back down into more of layer 1 and layer 2, the human layer and the leverage layer. And for me, absolutely this year, that is where I am seeing the greatest success. So as an example of this June, within the first 2 weeks, so I think it was the 15th of June, I did a bit of a check-in and I'd done £17,000 worth of new sales. So from that £17,000 worth of new sales, this is only new sales, it's not looking at anything that's recurring or on payment plans, £17,000 of new sales, less than 1,000 of that was from what I would say is layer 3. So that's like upsells, digital products on thank you pages, order bumps at checkout, people who just come into your ecosystem and spend money without ever having that kind of connection. Great, lovely to have it, but it wasn't the main focus of that money. And interestingly, less than £1,000 came from layer 1. Everything else of that £17,000, more than £15,000 of it came from layer 2, that leverage layer, which is built around relationships, upsells, repeat purchases, win backs, and referrals. So actually that tells me something really specific about what is working and about where I need to continue to focus and concentrate my efforts. So I'd encourage all of you to think about those layers. Layer 1, the human layer. Layer 2, the leverage layer, and layer 3, the scale. Where does your attention need to be? If you're in startup mode, if you're just still getting your first few clients, everything needs to be in layer 1. Beyond that, when you've got your first few clients, you can start to look at layer 2, but you need to keep layer 1 turning. And then, yeah, absolutely. If you feel like you're absolutely nailing layer 1 and layer 2 and it's working really well, then for sure, look at layer 3, scale up. But one of the mistakes I see is that people put almost all their effort and attention into the content, the lead magnets, planning launches or websites. But that is not the whole picture, and that is not where you are going to see the quick wins or the sales. Those quick wins and sales come from connections, conversations, invitations, and relationships. So please, please, please do not skip these parts. If you are skipping layers 1 and 2 and going straight to layer 3, I think that is really hard in the market at the moment. I think it's probably always been hard, and you'll have maybe heard me talk about this before. Startup businesses or businesses who are under 100k revenue per annum, but they skip the human and the leverage layers and they just go straight to scaling strategies. And that's partly because this industry sells scaling strategies and there's people who are making a lot of money for that. But it's also partly, I think, because people don't have the sales confidence or the sales confidence to have these conversations that are required at layer 1 and layer 2. So building a lead magnet or building a funnel or learning about ads or starting a YouTube channel, all of that feels easier, but it's not actually easier. It is so much harder. And if you haven't done the hard yards, the stuff that really shapes you and shapes your offer and your positioning by having conversations, by understanding what people want and what people need, by understanding what questions they have, what objections they have, what is it that they really want? Why are they saying yes? Why are they saying no? If you're not kind of getting your entrepreneurial stripes by going through that, how on earth can you scale anything? It's really difficult. So I think that's always been difficult, but I believe now it is potentially impossible for most businesses. There will always be the unicorns, the outliers, the exceptions that prove the rule. But for me, if you are a solo founder running a service-based business or an expert or knowledge-based business, I don't think that you can go straight to building a one-to-many business looking only at layer 3 sales strategies. This is an episode looking at the question, do I think I'm having to work harder? So I think a really important part of the conversation is around that idea of hard work. Now, I've already said, I don't believe that you should measure your worth by how busy you are. I certainly don't wear busy or frazzled as a badge of honour. And in fact, when I feel myself starting to feel that way over a period of time, I know that that's a sign that I need to pause and take stock and catch my breath. I certainly don't believe that rest is lazy or that weekends offer for wimps. I've built my business so that I can have some freedom and flexibility and time with my family and time for things that I love and enjoy that are not work. But in spite of that, I do know with absolute certainty that business takes work. And I think we need to be able to say that. We should not be afraid of saying that. There's absolutely a difference between rejecting toxic hustle and rejecting effort. So, for example, I had a prospective client who came to me. This was a little while ago. She booked a discovery call. At that point, she was making almost no money in her business. She didn't have a proven offer or a particularly warm audience or a really exclusive niche. Now, I always ask people, like, what is the goal? What is the next goal you're trying to work towards? What are you trying to build? She told me that she wanted to earn 250K a year, but only wanted to work 4 hours a day, ideally 3 days a week, although she might do four. I had to say on that call, look, my belief is that in the mid or long term, sure, that might well be attainable. But in the next year, I just don't think that that is achievable or realistic. And if you will only do those hours and that is the result you're looking to achieve, I'm not confident that I can help you. Now, she wasn't particularly happy, and I think she thought I was a bit of a hustle bro, but I am never going to promise something that I don't think I can deliver. And actually, building a 250K revenue business takes drive, passion, resilience, fortitude, and yes, a bit of hustle. I know I've done it 3 times over in 3 different businesses, in recruitment, in my baby swim school, and here in this business. And I absolutely never did it working 12 hours a week. So to pretend otherwise is really doing a disservice. And yeah, like I say, I don't believe in work at the expense of everything else. I don't believe in business coming before family, balance, or lifestyle, because these things really matter. But absolutely, there is a real difference between wanting a sustainable business that feels good and expecting business to feel easy all the time. Because the reality is that business is not easy all the time. And, as this whole episode is about, when you do think it's easy and when things are working, all of a sudden things change and you have to reassess, you have to pivot, you have to be agile, you have to be able to change things. So yeah, business is hard work, not in a way that should cost you your health or your family or your values. Of course not. But it does require that focus. It does require courage, consistency. It also requires ruthless self-awareness and honesty. And yeah, to be able to keep adapting. And if the current market means that business owners, have to get honest about that instead of, I want to work 10 hours a week and make 100K months, then to me, that is a good thing. That is a good thing. Okay, so back to the question, are we having to work harder in business right now? Maybe in some ways, yes, but I think definitely the more useful answer is we are having to work differently. We are having to pay more attention, be more agile, be more prepared to double down and be boringly consistent when something works, whilst also prepared to be playful, curious, and try new things. We have to be resilient. We have to be okay with trying things that don't work and being able to quickly get back up and refine and retest and refine and retest until we get into where we need to be, because we are absolutely having to do things differently. We're having to be more human. We're having to build more trust. We're having to stay closer to our people. I would say we're having to serve at a higher level than ever. And that's a good thing. And we're having to stop hiding behind content and start having better conversations. Also a good thing. And I think that we're probably having to stop relying on one strategy and start building more multi-layered sales systems. So if your business has felt slower or less predictable or like you're having to work harder, something is definitely shifting. Something might need to change. That might be how you position or deliver your offer. It might be your sales process, might be your follow-up, but it's almost certainly a sign that if you aren't already, you really need to come back to the people already in your world instead of constantly chasing new and colder audiences. But please do not make any market difficulty mean that you personally feel that you are not good enough or that you are failing, because people are still buying. There are 100% still sales to be made, but you probably need to make them in a different way to make sure that you are capitalizing on every opportunity available to you. So, as we always do, let's finish with practical actions to move you forward. Your actions from this episode are really simple. If sales are feeling slower right now, let's start by looking at the best and the warmest parts of the business. Draw out that multi-layered sales framework, 3 layers or levels, and pinpoint how much of your revenue year to date has been from each of these layers, the human layer, the leverage layer, or the scale layer. And then get intentional about what that answer is telling you. For me, I absolutely believe that the biggest opportunities for most of us right now are in level 2. And if you're in startup, then it's level 1. But don't guess. Look properly and see what your own numbers are telling you. And I think the other action that I want to give you is to focus on client lifetime value. I've spoken about this metric before in the podcast, I know. But if you have existing clients, look at how else you can help them. What else can you do for them? How else can you serve them on a deeper or higher level? What is the next problem or the next challenge or the next opportunity? What's the next level of support? Because I believe that for most of us, our best next sales will almost certainly not be from a stranger. So do something. Take something from this. Be proactive. Do the thing. Make the cheeky ask. Send the email that makes you feel a little bit nervous and maybe a little bit in your stomach. Look for that big domino to knock over that will accelerate you towards your goals, because honestly, momentum and success are built through action, focused action, brave action, sales first action. So let's do it. Let's keep doing it every week. Let's keep coming back, keep checking in. And let's make sure that we achieve our goals together. And if this episode has been useful, please share it on socials, tag me on whatever platform that you are sharing it on. I would love to know that you've listened and that you've enjoyed it. And of course, if you want more support with your sales, your services, and your business growth, come and find me. annapayne.online/everything, where I've got a ton of free resources for you, as well as more information on my upcoming events, in-person days, retreats, and services. You can also claim your free 30 days at my online speed networking, which is just such a great place to have these very human connections and conversations. And I would love to, if you're not part of it already, I would love to welcome you in. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.